The sun had barely risen over the city skyline when Marcus Reed unlocked the side door of the towering glass building where he worked. The chill of the early morning wind brushed against his face as he tightened his old blue jacket, the one with his name stitched in faded white letters. Inside the silent lobby, the faint scent of lemon cleaner lingered from the night before. Marcus took a deep breath, grabbed his mop and bucket, and began another long day as the company's janitor. For 15 years, Marcus had worked quietly in the background of Harrington and Coal Industries, one of the largest financial firms in the state. He was the kind of man most people saw but never really noticed. Every morning, before the executives in their tailored suits filled the halls, Marcus made sure everything was spotless, the floors gleaming, the windows clear, the break room tidy. He moved with quiet precision. Cleaning wasn't just his job, it was how he showed pride in what he did. If you're gonna do something, his late father used to say, do it right, son. Doesn't matter if you're sweeping the floor or signing checks. Marcus lived by that motto. But behind his calm, steady routine, there was a story no one at Harrington and Coal really knew. Marcus was a single father raising his teenage daughter, Ava, after losing his wife to cancer 5 years earlier. Every paycheck he earned went to rent, groceries, and keeping Ava in school. The nights were often long and quiet. When he wasn't working the late shift, he'd sit at the small kitchen table, helping Ava with homework or fixing the loose cabinet door that kept breaking. Ava was his light, ambitious, curious, and endlessly talkative. She dreamed of becoming an engineer, and Marcus worked every hour he could to make sure she'd have that chance. One day, baby girl, he'd tell her, you're gonna wear one of those suits and walk through those doors like you own the place. Ava would laugh, shaking her head. And you'll be there too, Dad. Maybe running the janitor department. But mornings like this were heavy. The building's fluorescent lights flickered as Marcus pushed his mop across the marble lobby floor. A few early employees passed by, eyes glued to their phones. Some nodded politely. Most didn't. He was invisible to them, just the man who kept their space clean. Still, Marcus didn't mind. He had long ago learned that respect wasn't always loud. Sometimes, it was about being consistent when no one was watching. And every so often, someone did notice. There was Eleanor, the elderly receptionist who'd worked at the company nearly as long as Marcus. She always greeted him with a warm smile and a fresh cup of coffee. You keep this place shining, Marcus, she'd say. Don't think people don't see it. Then there was Caleb, a young intern who often stayed late studying financial reports in the break room. Marcus had given him advice once, simple but sincere: hard work only matters if you keep your heart in it. Caleb had never forgotten that. Still, most days followed the same rhythm: clean, sweep, mop, repeat. The pay wasn't much, but it was honest. Marcus had seen men break under the pressure of trying to climb ladders too high, too fast. He'd learned to find peace on the ground floor. But that morning, something felt off. As he made his way through the parking lot to take out the trash, he noticed a sleek black car parked near the loading dock. The engine was idling, and a man in a gray hoodie sat behind the wheel, glancing around nervously. Marcus paused for a moment, watching. He didn't recognize the car, but deliveries weren't unusual. He shrugged and went back inside. At lunchtime, the building came alive. Executives laughed over sandwiches, phones buzzed with meetings and deals. Marcus cleaned the tables after them, humming softly to himself. He didn't know that in just a few hours, his life and his reputation in the company would change forever. When evening came, Marcus clocked out, grabbed his worn backpack, and headed for the bus stop. His daughter had texted him earlier. "Dad, can you pick me up from the library? My study group ran late." He smiled. She was working hard just like her mother used to. But when Marcus reached the parking lot, that same black car from earlier was still there. The man in the hoodie was now leaning against it, pretending to scroll through his phone. Marcus's instincts kicked in. He'd seen things like this before, people waiting for something, or someone. But he couldn't shake the uneasy feeling crawling up his spine. He brushed it off and started walking down the street. A few blocks away, he spotted Ava standing near the curb with her backpack. She waved when she saw him. As she stepped toward the road, Marcus noticed a familiar car slowly pulling up behind her, the same black one. That's when his heart started pounding. He didn't know what was happening yet, but something deep inside screamed that something wasn't right. He opened his mouth to shout but stopped himself. Maybe he was overreacting. Maybe it was just another parent. Then he saw the car door crack open. A hand reached out. And before he even realized what he was doing, Marcus yelled, his voice echoing across the quiet street. "Don't get in the car." The sound of Marcus's voice cut through the evening air like a thunderclap. "Don't get in the car." Ava froze mid-step, startled by her father's shout. The black sedan stopped abruptly, its tires screeching on the pavement. For a brief, terrifying moment, everything seemed to move in slow motion. Marcus dropped his backpack and ran toward her, his heart pounding so hard it echoed in his ears. The man in the driver's seat glanced up, eyes wide with alarm, then slammed his door shut. Without another word, he sped off, the engine roaring as the car disappeared around the corner. Marcus reached his daughter, panting and shaking. "You okay, baby? He didn't say anything to you?" Ava looked pale, clutching her backpack straps. "No, Dad. He just asked if I was Ava. Said Mom sent him to pick me up." Her voice trembled. "But Mom's gone." Marcus's stomach dropped. He looked down the street, still hearing the fading sound of the car. His instincts had been right. Something terrible could have happened. He took a long breath, steadying himself, and hugged his daughter tightly. "You're safe now," he whispered. "That's what matters." Later that night, after Ava had fallen asleep, Marcus sat at the small kitchen table, staring at the old phone in his hands. He had already called the police to report the incident. They promised to check nearby cameras and patrol the area for the suspicious vehicle. Still, Marcus couldn't stop replaying the moment in his mind, the man's face, the way the car had been waiting, the fear in his daughter's eyes. He knew he had done the right thing, but part of him worried what people would think. He was, after all, just a janitor. People didn't usually listen to men like him. The next morning at work, Marcus arrived early as usual. The lobby was quiet, but word had already spread. Someone had filmed part of the incident from an apartment window, his yell, the car speeding off, and him rushing to his daughter's side. The short clip had made its way to the company's internal chat group overnight. When Marcus walked in, conversations hushed. A few employees looked at him differently, some with curiosity, others with admiration. "Hey, Marcus," called Caleb, the young intern. "Was that really you in that video? Man, you were brave." Marcus gave a modest shrug. "Just did what any father would do." But not everyone was impressed. As he pushed his mop across the break room floor, he overheard two executives whispering near the coffee machine. "Did you see that janitor yelling in public like a maniac?" one said. "Scared half the neighborhood." "Yeah," the other replied. "Probably overreacted. Some people just love attention." Marcus tried to ignore them, but the words stung. He didn't care about attention, he cared about protecting his daughter. Still, hearing people twist the story made his chest tighten. By midday, the company's CEO, Richard Harrington, had caught wind of the video too. He was a tall, stern man known for his precision and formality. He rarely spoke to janitors or maintenance staff. But something about the clip caught his eye. He watched it several times, the janitor dropping his bag, shouting "Don't get in the car," and running full speed toward the girl. He paused the video, studying the man's face. There was no hesitation, no doubt, just pure, protective instinct. "Find out who that man is," Richard told his assistant. "And bring him to my office." That afternoon, Marcus was cleaning the conference room when Eleanor, the receptionist, poked her head in. "Marcus, honey," she said softly, "the boss wants to see you upstairs." Marcus froze mid-mop. "The boss? You mean Mr. Harrington?" She nodded. "Yep. Said it's important." Marcus's heart sank. He couldn't imagine why the CEO wanted to talk to him. Maybe someone had complained about the attention the video was getting. Maybe they thought he'd embarrassed the company. He straightened his uniform, wiped his hands on his rag, and took the elevator to the top floor, a place he'd never been invited before. The doors opened to a carpeted hallway lined with framed awards and gold-plated plaques. The CEO's office was huge, sunlight streaming through tall windows, bookshelves stacked with leather-bound volumes. Behind a sleek wooden desk sat Richard Harrington, reviewing something on his tablet. Marcus hesitated in the doorway. "Sir, you asked to see me." Richard looked up and gestured for him to sit. "Mr. Reed, right? Please, have a seat." Marcus sat cautiously, hands clasped together. "If this is about the video, sir, It is," Richard interrupted gently. "I watched it several times." He leaned back, eyes thoughtful. "You saved that girl's life, didn't you?" Marcus shook his head. "I don't know, sir. I just had a feeling something wasn't right." The CEO nodded slowly. "That feeling, that instinct, it's something money can't buy." He leaned forward. "You did something extraordinary, Marcus. You acted when others might have looked away." Marcus blinked, unsure what to say. Compliments weren't something he was used to hearing from men in suits. Richard continued, "I heard some of my staff made unkind comments this morning. Don't pay them any mind. I've seen too many people in this company who look the other way when danger comes. You didn't. You protected someone, and that matters." For the first time in years, Marcus felt seen. "Thank you, sir," he said quietly. "I was just doing what any father would do." Richard smiled faintly. "That may be true. But you also reminded me of something we often forget around here, that titles don't measure worth." He stood and extended his hand. "I want to personally thank you for what you did." Marcus shook it, still processing what had just happened. As he left the office, the janitor who once blended into the background felt a quiet shift in the air. Something was changing, though he didn't yet know how deeply that moment would reshape his life. The next morning, Marcus arrived at work earlier than usual. The air felt different, lighter somehow, but he couldn't quite name why. He went about his usual routine, sweeping the marble floors and wiping down the glass walls that mirrored his reflection back at him. For the first time in a long while, he looked at that reflection and saw not just the janitor, but the man behind the uniform. As he worked, people he had never spoken to before nodded or smiled at him. "Morning, Marcus," said one of the accountants as she passed. Another man in a suit stopped him by the elevator. "Hey, I saw that video. You did the right thing, man. Respect." Marcus gave a small smile and a nod, still unsure how to feel about the sudden attention. He wasn't used to being recognized. When he reached the break room, Eleanor was waiting for him with her usual warm grin and a fresh cup of coffee. "Looks like you're famous now, sweetheart," she teased. "The CEO's been talking about you all morning." Marcus chuckled nervously. "I don't know if that's a good thing or not." "Oh, it's good," she said firmly. "About time somebody up there noticed the kind of man you are." Before he could respond, a voice came from behind him. "Mr. Reed." Marcus turned and saw Caleb, the young intern, holding a folder. "Mr. Harrington asked me to deliver this to you." Said you should read it before your meeting this afternoon. Marcus frowned. Meeting? Yeah. With him. 2 o'clock. Caleb grinned. Guess he wasn't done thanking you. Marcus took the folder, puzzled. Inside was a single document, a notice with the company's logo at the top and a short paragraph typed in crisp black ink. Internal Initiative Proposal, Harrington and Cole Community Scholarship Program. This program, inspired by the courage and character of employee Marcus Reed, aims to provide full educational scholarships to children of the company's maintenance and service staff. Marcus's mouth went dry. He read it twice, then a third time. His hands trembled slightly. His daughter's face flashed in his mind, her dream of becoming an engineer, the long nights of studying, the financial worry that had always hung over them. He closed the folder slowly, a mix of disbelief and gratitude swirling inside him. When 2 o'clock came, Marcus found himself once again outside the CEO's office. He took a deep breath before knocking. "Come in," said the familiar voice from within. Richard Harrington stood by the window, looking out over the city. He turned as Marcus entered and gestured toward the seat across from his desk. "Marcus," he said with a smile. "Glad you came." "Yes, sir. Thank you for seeing me again." The CEO nodded toward the folder. "I see you've read the proposal." Marcus cleared his throat. "Yes, sir. I don't know what to say. That's a big thing to do." Richard leaned against the desk, arms folded. "You reminded me of something important, Marcus. When I started this company, my father worked as a factory cleaner. People used to look right through him. But he was the hardest working man I ever knew. You reminded me of him yesterday, not just because of what you did, but because of who you are." Marcus looked down, humbled. "I just did what any father would have done." "That's exactly the point," Richard said softly. "It's not about grand gestures. It's about heart. You showed this company what real integrity looks like." He paused, then continued, "The scholarship program is in your name, Marcus. The first recipient, if you'll allow it, will be your daughter." Marcus's eyes widened. "Ava?" The CEO nodded. "I spoke with your supervisor this morning. She told me your daughter's grades are exceptional. We'd like to sponsor her education full ride. College, books, the works." For a moment, Marcus couldn't speak. His throat tightened, and he blinked rapidly to fight the emotion building behind his eyes. "Sir, I don't know how to thank you." "You already have," Richard said simply. "By being the kind of man the rest of us should strive to be." When Marcus stepped out of the office, the world seemed brighter. Eleanor caught sight of him walking past the reception desk and waved him over. "Well?" she asked eagerly. Marcus grinned, a tear slipping down his cheek. "He's starting a scholarship for folks like us. And Ava's going to be the first one." Eleanor gasped, her eyes welling with tears. "Oh, Marcus, your wife would be so proud." He nodded, voice soft. "I think she would." That evening, Marcus arrived home to find Ava sitting at the table, surrounded by open textbooks. "Hey, Dad," she said without looking up. "How was work?" He sat down across from her and smiled. "You might want to take a break, baby girl. I've got some news." Ava raised an eyebrow. "Good news or bad news?" "The best kind," he said. "You're going to college fully paid. The company's giving you a scholarship." For a second, she just stared at him, mouth open. "You're kidding." Marcus shook his head. "Nope. Mr. Harrington said it's because of what happened. Said he wants to help kids like you, the ones working hard even when the odds aren't fair." Ava covered her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. She jumped up and hugged him tightly. "Dad, that's everything. You did this." Marcus held her close, his heart swelling with pride. "No, sweetheart. We did this. You and me. Together." That night, after Ava went to bed, Marcus stepped out onto the small balcony. The city lights shimmered in the distance, soft and golden. He thought of his wife, of all the years of quiet struggle, of the countless times he'd prayed for a sign that things would get better. And now, somehow, they had. He whispered into the night, "Thank you." But he didn't know yet the story wasn't finished. The next day, something unexpected would happen at the company that would test everything he believed about trust, pride, and forgiveness. The next morning, Marcus woke up with a feeling he hadn't known in years: peace. The sunlight poured softly through the window as he made breakfast for Ava. She was humming to herself, still glowing with joy from the night before. "Can you believe it, Dad?" she said between bites of toast. "A full scholarship. I still can't wrap my head around it." Marcus smiled. "Believe it? You earned it. All those late nights, all that studying, it paid off." Ava laughed, leaning over to hug him. "You're my hero, Dad." The words hit him deep. He'd spent his whole life trying to protect her, to make up for what they'd lost when her mother passed. And now, for the first time, it felt like everything they'd gone through, every sacrifice, had led to something beautiful. When Marcus arrived at work, the building buzzed with energy. Employees gathered in clusters, whispering and smiling as he passed. Some clapped him on the shoulder, others simply nodded with respect. He was halfway down the hall when Eleanor called out from her desk. "Marcus. They're calling you upstairs again, sugar. The CEO's got an announcement, and he wants you there." Marcus blinked. "Another one? I was just up there yesterday." Eleanor chuckled. "Well, seems like you're part of the big leagues now." He straightened his uniform, heart thumping, and took the elevator up to the executive floor. When the doors opened, he found nearly 24 people gathered in the main conference hall: executives, managers, interns, even maintenance workers. Richard Harrington stood at the front, microphone in hand. "Ah, there he is," the CEO said warmly as Marcus entered. "Come on up here, Mr. Reed." Marcus hesitated but stepped forward, eyes darting around the room. Cameras flashed. He could feel everyone watching. Richard smiled. "Yesterday, we decided to launch the Marcus Reed Scholarship Foundation, a program that will give children of our company's service workers a chance at the education they deserve. But today, I realized something else." He paused, scanning the room. "Courage isn't built in boardrooms. It's built in everyday people, the ones who keep this place running when no one's watching." He turned toward Marcus. "And sometimes, the truest leaders wear work boots instead of suits." The audience broke into quiet applause. Marcus felt his throat tighten as Richard reached into an envelope and pulled out a certificate. "Marcus," the CEO said, "as of today, we'd like to promote you to facilities supervisor. You'll be managing the janitorial and maintenance teams across all 3 branches. Higher pay, full benefits, and, of course, your daughter's scholarship remains in place." Marcus's eyes widened. "Sir, I..." Richard held up a hand. "You earned it. Not for yelling that night, but for how you've lived every day since you started here. Quietly. Honestly. With pride." The applause grew louder. Eleanor wiped away tears from the back of the room. Caleb, the young intern, grinned and gave Marcus a thumbs up. Marcus swallowed hard, accepting the certificate with trembling hands. "I don't know what to say," he managed. "I just did what any father, any man would do." Richard smiled. "And that's exactly why you deserve this." After the meeting, Marcus walked through the building, his step slow and thoughtful. People who once brushed past him now stopped to talk, not out of pity, but genuine respect. In the break room, 2 of the executives who had mocked him before approached awkwardly. "Hey, Marcus," one of them began, "we just wanted to say, we were wrong. About everything. You showed us what real courage looks like." Marcus looked at them for a moment, then smiled gently. "It's all right. We all learn things the hard way sometimes." He didn't hold grudges. Life was too short for that. That evening, he returned home to find Ava sitting on the couch, holding a letter. "Dad," she said, eyes wide, "you won't believe this." He laughed. "After this week, I think I can believe anything." She handed him the letter. It was from a prestigious university. "Congratulations, Ava Reed. You have been accepted into our School of Engineering for the upcoming semester." Marcus's heart swelled. "You did it, baby." Ava smiled through tears. "We did it, Dad. Because you never gave up." They hugged, holding on tight, two people who had walked through storms but never stopped believing that light was on the other side. Weeks passed, and the story of the janitor who saved a life became a quiet legend in the company. New employees whispered about him during orientation. Some even came to Marcus for advice, drawn by the calm wisdom in his voice. He didn't see himself as a hero. He was just a father who did what he had to do. But every time he saw the scholarship banner with his name on it, he felt a deep warmth inside. One Friday evening, as the office lights dimmed, Marcus took one last walk through the building. The polished floors reflected his steps, the same floors he'd once cleaned with a mop, now walked with pride as their supervisor. He paused by the large glass doors and looked out at the street where it had all begun, where he'd yelled those 5 words that changed everything. "Don't get in the car." He smiled faintly, shaking his head. "Funny how life works," he murmured. Behind him, Richard's voice called out, "Heading home, Marcus?" Marcus turned, smiling. "Yeah. My daughter's got an orientation meeting. Wouldn't miss it for the world." The CEO nodded, extending his hand once more. "You've made this company better, Marcus." Marcus took his hand and replied simply, "Just trying to leave things cleaner than I found them, sir." They both laughed. As Marcus walked out into the golden sunset, his reflection in the glass doors no longer showed a tired janitor. It showed a man who had found his worth, his purpose, and his peace, proof that no job is too small, and no act of courage ever goes unseen.